Well, today's episode of the Locked On Texan podcast, DeMeco Ryans has spoke. Starters will play on Sunday.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily podcast on the Houston Texans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Battle Red Nation, welcome to today's show. I'm Texans football analyst and credential media member, John Hickman, alongside the man with the big hat, the even bigger smile, and the polo, original Ralph Lauren polo crew neck. Podcasters only live once. Being Big Stars Bearfield, today's episode. We actually don't have an opening sponsor for today, so we'll get right into what we're talking about. We're diving into the YouTube comments. Azeez Al-Shaair returns back. What does that mean for this Houston Texans defense that has given up nearly 400 yards on the ground in their last two games? And no rest for the weary. Texans plan to play starters this Sunday as they get ready to take on the Tennessee Titans. Big Sarge.
Yes, sir.
Look around, man. And a lot of the excitement for this season is kind of down the drain a little bit. Yes, the Houston Texans will be making the playoffs. We talked about their favorable matchups on Monday's show, but DeMeco Ryans came out and said, yeah, we're going to see the starters play. Right or wrong move. I want to get your thoughts on that. And what are you looking forward to from the starters to give you some type of relief, maybe give back a little bit more of that excitement that we all lost?
John, I'm going to tell you like this.
Oh, man.
Wow. Podcasters only live once is amazing. That bro, I you got me on that one. I wasn't even expecting that, John. That's amazing. I'm gonna have to use that one. I may have to. You better trademark that before I get
real
to
quick.
But with that being said, John, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I don't like it.
Why?
Because after watching what happened in the Kansas City game with the injuries, and then you made it out by the skin of your teeth, healthy, coming out of that Baltimore game, even though you did not play the best. John, there's nothing that they're going to learn about themselves on Sunday against the Titans that they don't already know heading into the playoffs.
But Monday afternoon, y'all got a chance to speak with newly acquired wide receiver Deontay Johnson. Would it benefit this offense to get on the same page with quarterback CJ Stroud a little bit?
How many series, John? You brought him in with 2 weeks left in the season.
Yeah.
And this isn't OTAs, this isn't training camp. I don't like it at all. I don't want the starters going out there risking anything. And I know that they're trying to get back on the field to prove who they are. You're not going to prove anything to the Tennessee Titans. Right now, you're really just playing for bragging rights. And I think that your backups can beat the Tennessee Titans backups. Do not risk putting your starters out there with the potential of getting hurt. And I know you can't play scared, but you could play smart. You're not playing for anything except if you want to win 10 games in a season, you still can do that with your backups. You already down a lot of starters. Look, I will get Azeez out there maybe for 1 or 2 series, and then I'm taking him out of the game. And I know he's missed the last 3 weeks, but I still need him healthy and fresh. You've had enough time to see your backups play with the amount of injuries that you've had, that this team has sustained throughout the year. You've had enough time to see what these backups can do. Get them out there, let them get some reps, because you never know. If you win the wild card game next Saturday at NRG Stadium and you advance the division round, you never know who's going to be the next man up. So no, I don't want to take a chance at all. John, I watched this past Saturday. I watched the Los Angeles Chargers lose their starting defensive back to a non-contact injury. What if that happens, John? What if you get out there, you just say, well, our starters are going to play, and then something happens on a non-contact injury? Now what do you go back and do? And I understand you can't play scared. I get that part, but you're not playing for anything. Everything that you need is already secure. Even if you lose this game, it doesn't matter. AFC South champs, John. So you putting your starters out there. Listen, if they don't have Bobby Slowik's offense down by now, then when are they going to get it? Now, you think that 1 week is going to be a miraculous turnaround? John, I do not like this move.
You believe the Texans are not playing for anything, and I think they need to play for rhythm. This team is completely off their rhythm right now, losing major players. That's just me. But I also would say this, and I think you about to push back on this. I also think we may get some pushback comments when I say this. Hey, man, we've seen this team lose games they were supposed to win and create the adversity from a player standpoint, coaching standpoint, injury standpoint. But what I want to say is, have they earned it? I mean,
Earned what?
Earned to rest?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I don't know, man. I think this would be a great time for them to create some rhythm for a bad offense right now.
John, you want to watch a Janet Jackson video. Watch Rhythm Nation if you want to see some rhythm. John, there's no possible way that you think that one game is going to put them back on track heading into the playoffs. If they don't have it by now, they're not going to get it. Get the rhythm in practice. Do not get it out on the field against another opponent. No, John.
I wonder, and you let me know, you've been around the locker room. I wonder how the players feel about that. Like,
players want to play.
The players want to play. It is football. Injuries happen. This team has been notorious for not making – we've made more excuses for this team than they've had. They've been able to bounce back time and time again. I think Houston can find some type of rhythm in this game. And do I think they should play all 4 quarters every series? I think the argument can be made no, and I would understand that argument, but I would like to see at least some positive, because the last time we saw this team, both sides of the ball, specifically to the offense, they were horrible, stunk it up. And so I think that could be some value there. That's just me, but I also don't think they've earned the right to say we're going to rest our starters.
Why not?
You beat Detroit, you beat Green Bay, you beat New York. Okay, you got the right to say that. We were able to beat some high caliber teams to give us that swag about ourselves.
So beating Tennessee gonna give you the confidence? Tennessee,
but
a 3-13 win team. The one is gonna pick a top 5.
Beating Tennessee can give Houston some offensive rhythm going into the playoffs. So we know that they need that. 2 points.
What they don't. Points. But John, listen, let me tell you something.
2 points.
I put it like this. The offensive rhythm was starting to click against Kansas City before Tank got hurt.
Right. If that was the last game of the year, I mean, if that was the last game before Tennessee, sit them.
John, what are you – listen, let me say it like this. What type of rhythm or do you think that you're going to – let me say it like this. John, what the Houston Texans are about to do when they go play the Tennessee Titans is the equivalent to a sophomore in high school playing against a 5th grader, maybe a 6th grader. I'll give you a 6th grader. I'll give you a middle schooler. Well, let's just do it like that. A middle schooler. What are you going to learn about your game? I'm talking about playing basketball, one-on-one in basketball. What are you going to learn about your game playing against? If you're a sophomore playing against a 6th grader, John, that's the equivalent to what they're doing. This is a team that's going to that's already won the AFC South, that's going to the playoffs, and they're getting ready to play a 3-13 team who's fighting for draft position. They don't even want to win. You have everything to lose in this game. You learn nothing about yourself by getting offensive rhythm against a bad team. Now, if this was week 8, of course we could say that, John, but this is week 18. On top of the fact, you're one of 2 teams that have been playing football since when? They're one of the teams, I think them in Chicago, right, are the only 2 teams that have been playing football for the amount of time they had. They started OTAs early. They started training camp early. They had an extra preseason game. If you got an opportunity to they didn't get a rest till week 14, the bye week. If you have an opportunity to allow your team to rest, especially with the amount of injuries that you sustain, you got to let them rest, John. Beating Tennessee gives you nothing. It's great for Hannah McNair and Amy. But I mean,
fuel the beef. Fuel the beef up. I love to see 2 old women fight over bragging rights of teams. I do want to say shout out to the New York Giants for competing. and not completing the tank after they beat
Look, we'll have a conversation one day
after
about
they won
why they don't want
Sunday.
Shador.
That was crazy. Shout out to the New York Giants for not going outside. Azeez is back.
Yep.
You mentioned, hey, he may need a couple of series to get it going, get the football back in him after missing 3 games. So let's talk about that and more on the Locked On Texans podcast. Locked On Texans listeners and viewers, have you ever heard about Rocket Money? And if not, you need to check out the app right now. They help you find subscriptions you forgot about or that you're paying for twice. That has definitely happened to me. I've had a couple of subscriptions I didn't realize I was still paying for a double for. And Rocket Money has made it easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors all of your spending habits, and helps you lower your bills so you can grow your savings account. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit for the year. New year, new me, right? New year, new you. Rocket Money has over 5 million users, and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. Again, visit rocketmoney.com/lockedon today.
Battle Red Nation, welcome back to the Locked On Texans podcast. Hey, John.
Talk to me.
When I walked into the Houston Texans locker room today, I stood there and I waited and I waited and I waited. And then all of a sudden, a young man walked through the door. And in my mind, I just started screaming. You remember the song by Mace, Welcome Back? You know what I'm saying?
Welcome back. Welcome back.
Yep. So that's what I felt like in my mind when I seen Houston Texans linebacker Azeez Al-Shaair, and he walked in, John, just like last time I seen Azeez, he was smiling. He walked into the locker room on Monday smiling. He was happy to be back. His teammates were happy to see him, even though they had seen him. They were just happy. You could just tell there was a different type of atmosphere as far as the defensive side of the ball was concerned with the people that sits closest to Azeez. One of the people who was very happy was linebacker Henry To'oTo'o, who has become, because Azeez has become somewhat of a mentor to him. They're like really, really good friends. And, Azeez waits on him to go to the meetings. Sometimes even during the media availability, they're sitting there together, going over plays on the tablet, talking about different plays, talking about, the upcoming opponent. And so just to see Azeez Al-Shaair back in the locker room on Monday was a great thing, especially for a young man who has been through so much as far as having his character attacked over the last 3 to 5 weeks. It's one of those things where you're saying to yourself, I know this guy personally, and to read the things that was going on and what they were saying about him all the way to his religious views just made me sick to my stomach, John. But as he returns and comes back on the field in the final week of the NFL regular season, what are you expecting to see from Azeez Al-Shaair against the Tennessee Titans on Sunday?
Well, I just want to see him and Christian Harris play some football together. Yeah. Completely wrong about the time missed with Christian Harris. I am, and I'm okay to admit that. At one point, I think this was off the screen, maybe on the screen. And maybe Henry To'oTo'o's growth has been so great. Maybe Houston can maybe look at moving on from Christian Harrison. Boy, was I wrong about that. Just haven't seen them play together. And I think this will be great for Houston to see. I think this will be great for the fans to see. By the way, the last time I saw Azeez pulled up on a lot of the Texans content creators at Tejas Brewery. And that was fun, just interacting with the fans. He is a great player to represent the city of Houston. But I just want to see him and Christian Harris play the football together. That's it. I don't want to overanalyze it. I don't want to look too deep into it. I mean, before he got the suspension, We know that he was Houston's undoubtedly savior for that defense. Of course, Derek Stingley, who we all believe will be the all-pro cornerback, but Azeez does a lot for that defense in terms of communications, in terms of making plays, in terms of, as you mentioned, Henry T, helping with the growth of others. So he's done a lot for this defense. I want to see him go out on a high note playing this last game, but just see him play some good linebacker football with Christian Harris. Haven't seen it, and I think we have been – what's the opposite of spoiled? We have been unlucky to see Christian Harris and Azeez, and so have opposing quarterbacks. Well, they've been lucky to not see those two guys play football at the same time.
So, John, here's another question I have for you before I say anything else about it. With Azeez returning, do you think that they'll tinker with the fact of putting Christian Harris at that nickel corner position, having running the 3 linebacker set, allowing Christian Harris to play in that nickel corner slot position, not continuously, not on an every down basis on the when they're on defense, but throw in some packages where he can. Because John, look, we're talking about a former cornerback. He played safety. A cornerback.
Christian Harris,
4 years. He just told me that last week. He said, I played cornerback for 4 years. Well, he played some safety too. Don't get me wrong. He played some safety, but cornerback was his position. He said, he said, that's what makes me so good at being able to tackle in open space, because I used to have to do it on a consistent basis. So now, John, you bring him closer to the line, you put him right there, you let him get physical with some of those smaller slot receivers trying to come out or even trying to block him. You got an extra, it's almost like having, version of Jalen Petrie, the way that he used to be, near the line, being an additional linebacker in there for the Houston Texans. But, you don't want to see him do that on an every down basis, but you can use him in spurts. That way you don't have to use Kamari Lassiter so much and then put Jeff Okudah on the field, or even, if you don't want to put Miles Bryant on the field, if you want to still be able to have Kamari on the outside. So do you think that you could see some packages with Christian Harris playing the nickel corner position?
So basically some wheel. He's
fast too, John. He's fast.
He is. I thought he ran a 4.4 40 or something like that.
I don't remember, but he's fast. He's like one of the fastest guys on the team.
Harris, Al-Shaair, and Henry. Yeah, I would like to see that. I think that'll help out Christian Harris a lot in this defense. I think Chig Okonkwo, tight end from Tennessee, last 3 games has probably been one of the more productive stretches for him as a tight end in terms of targets, catches, and yards. That'll be a good matchup for Christian Harris heading into the playoffs. And it does give Houston the opportunity to essentially see in what ways can they create matchup problems for that defense, who, again, let's be honest, we believe that defense is going to be what the saving grace is for this team. So wouldn't mind it. I definitely think it would depend on down and distance.
Yeah, for sure.
And matchup, maybe early downs, you get them out there on opportunities where it's not an obvious passing down. But I think Harris, he's going to need a lot of snaps too. Like you mentioned, maybe Azeez don't get a lot of snaps. Harris needs those snaps. So in any way they can find getting them on the field, you got to do it. I think so.
Yeah, and the reason why I say that, John, and to bring it back to Azeez, I think that's the luxury that you have, especially when you're going into a game shorthanded, especially when you got to go into the postseason shorthanded with no Jimmy Ward and no Jalen Petrie, who would normally play in that position. You've gotten a lot. I think that the Houston Texans were surprised by what they got out of Henry To'oTo'o in his second year in the defensive scheme under DeMeco Ryans and Matt Burke. But with Azeez is the mind, the brain, the quarterback that makes that all work. And if you put Azeez and Henry next to each other, who are used to playing with each other, you got to play him some with Christian Harris against the Tennessee Titans, because they need to develop that chemistry as well. They haven't played together the entire year. And so they have to get together and learn, each other's tendencies for as much as they can in that game and rolling over into the playoffs. But I think with the way that Azeez plays that middle linebacker position, the way that he has helped Henry To'oTo'o grow, you've got to have him back on the field. And it also, the defensive, the front four, the defensive line feels way comfortable when Azeez is back there, because Azeez puts them in the right spots. Azeez makes sure that they know, because Azeez knows what everybody is doing on the defense, everybody. And he holds them accountable for doing their job, winning your one-on-ones, winning your battles, because that's exactly what he's trying to do. And, no player is perfect. Everybody's going to get beat on certain plays. And so he gets beat, but he's held accountable as well. I don't know if you remember this or not, but during training camp, Will Anderson Jr. was like, I never had nobody talk to me like that, like Azeez did. And that's only because he's, holding me accountable, telling me stop jumping off sides and things like that. So they love having him out there. And then, John, having Azeez on the field, that's an extension of DeMeco Ryans and his brain and what he likes to do. So I'm glad to see Azeez back. I don't know if I would play him the entire game. I would probably get him a half just so he can get his wind and conditioning and game speed back. Then I'll pull him back because he's too important and we need him in the playoffs.
It's time to take a trip to the YouTube comments. You guys have been extremely active, speaking your mind, opinions, and however you feel. A lot of pissed off fans. So let's dive into the YouTube comments and more on today's show. Thank you for making Locked On Texans your first listen of the day. Now, for your second listen, go find Locked On Now, 2 new shows every day. First, the madman Tyler Rowland kicks off your morning with a double shot of NFL espresso, and then stop by the barbershop with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcast. Sarge, a lot, and I do mean a lot, of pissed off Texan fans.
But guess what, John?
I've been speaking their mind.
I still love them. Even if they don't agree with me and they mad at me, hey, that's what makes this country so great. We can agree to disagree and still walk away like adults.
Yeah.
Look, I'm saying that before I even hear the comments.
Let's see what they got. Robert Ridge, 7719. I don't blame.
I already know.
I don't blame the D. Hold on now. They're on the field way more than the offense this season, and injuries is finally catching up to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I think a lot of fans kind of feel like that. Like, you give up 30 points. That's not the standard that this team has preached all year, but all things considered, I mean, we just had a whole segment about getting Azeez back. The injuries have caught up, and the offense has not been able to save them. Brian Herrera, 1390. Sarge protecting CJ like that. This was hands down his worst podcast all year.
So, who was this again?
This is from my man.
What's his name?
Brian Herrera, 1390.
Brian with the I, Brian with the Y.
Brian with an I. So that's your boy.
God. So listen,
that's your boy.
My namesake. You know what though? I'll treat him. I'll treat him with some respect.
Give him some respect and grace, man.
Yeah, and I mean his name is Brian, so I guess he can be Big Sarge Jr. Hey, look, check this out though, John. Check this out. If protecting CJ means saying exactly what I said during that episode about how everything, you can't just blame him. I did say CJ takes accountability. I did say CJ has not played up to the standards that he played on last season. I was the one who asked CJ, what is the difference between year 1 and year 2? And that's when he revealed, hey, man, I've been playing a little banged up too. I'm the one who had to have the one-on-one conversation with CJ's mom after I criticized CJ in the Lions game.
Shout out to Miss Stroud.
I don't understand how I'm being soft on CJ, but I get it, Brian. I understand it. I know you're probably upset that, I didn't give you a Christmas gift.
That's probably what it is. You didn't slide down that chimney. Shout out to Brian, my man. Reginald Rager, 2143. Texans are ruining CJ. He's not the same. He's not the same. Waited too long to fix the line. Now they waited too long to fix the line. Okay, that makes sense. Now he's hearing footsteps and his confidence is gone. Bobby should not have a job after this season. If Bobby is still here, I'm not supporting this team.
What's his name again? What's his name again?
My man, that was my man, Reginald Rager.
Reginald Rager, you get this.
The best person
You are.
award. The Hollywood Best Person Award.
Hey, John, that take was spot on.
You know what, Reginald? You may not be a fan of this team next year. Stick to your word. If Bobby comes back.
Bobby ain't coming back.
Sar says Bobby isn't coming back. I think there's a strong chance Bobby Sloat comes back.
In what capacity? Passing game coordinator.
It's just one game. This is from Pedro Cotto. It's just one game. Don't let it mess with us too much. Baltimore does this a few times a year. This year, they did it to Houston and Buffalo. Last year was Detroit, San Fran. About 2 times a year, they completely embarrass the team. I don't know, man. I think that's a cop-out.
Yeah.
You can read into that. You absolutely – it's not just one game. It's not. It's how many halves this year? No offensive touchdown?
Yeah, and you know what, John? Here's something
even
even worse. Like, it's more than just one game. It's mental. The mental aspect of only scoring 2 points in a game by your defense. Your offense scores nothing. No, this ain't just no regular what Baltimore does. Texans got their butts whipped.
Yeah. Michael 7046. Sarge, I'm gonna get this one to you. CJ saying he is banged up was a shot at his O-line.
Woo.
Are we reading into comments? Are we reading into, words that were said by the franchise quarterback? Or is he just really banged up? Was that a shot of his offensive line? He's taking how many sacks this year? How many hits?
Ooh, John, guess what?
Nearly 60?
John, guess what?
I'm guessing.
My New Year's Eve is going to be nice. I've already got it planned out and everything. I ain't touching that, John.
You ain't touching that?
I'm not touching that. You know why?
Not touching that?
You know why?
Scared.
It's true.
Oh, man.
It's true, John. He is 100% correct. It is. He is spot on. If I hadn't already given out the award, he would have got it.
A lot of y'all got on me if the hat I wore the other day. I couldn't read it. What it says. Okay, it said Remy Raw. Next time I'll do better with my hat selection. But make sure when I wear a better hat, you guys are watching the Locked On Texans podcast.
Well, wait, John, hold on. Hold on.
What you got?
Just real quick. I ain't like the hat either, but go ahead. Yeah.
Make sure you follow the Locked On Texans podcast on Twitter at Locked On Texans, on YouTube at Locked On Texans. Give me a follow on Twitter /X, John_Hickman12. Sarge?
Make sure you follow me on the app formerly known as Twitter at Big Star Sports with a Z at the end.
Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, y'all better get y'all New Year's resolutions together and stick to them. So if the Texans bring back Bobby Sloat,
New Year's Eve like homecoming.
It happens every year. Peace.